Welcome back, Sean.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Gabby?
I'm doing well.
All right, guys, let's talk new releases. Tell us about all the new books our book-loving friends can expect in February.
Sure. So the biggest major release is Crooked River by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. This is another installment in the Agent Pendergrass series. So if you're a fan already and you're on the waiting list, you could also look into some other thrillers and mysteries like Last to Die by Tess Gerritsen. But if you're looking for something new, this is actually a pretty good jumping on point. It's a very popular series and authors. And then there's a debut that I'm looking forward to. I'm actually already on the waiting list for this, so everybody will have to get behind me. This is called Real Life by Brandon Taylor, and it's about a introverted African-American from Alabama in a Midwestern university town, and kind of the social dynamics and how that affects him and his friend circle, his peer circle. I've heard it compared to Another Brooklyn by Jacqueline Woodson. I'm very excited to see this. It's a debut, so here's hoping.
Sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
So what about any book-to-movie adaptations that library card holders can read before they go see the movie?
Sure. It's actually a very big month for that. There are 3 that I'm looking forward to. There's an adaptation of Emma coming out, which is the classic novel from Jane Austen. There's Call of the Wild starring Harrison Ford, based on the Jack London novel. And the one that I'm looking forward to the most is Birds of Prey, or The Emancipation of Harley Quinn, which is based off of the comic series Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, and I'm hoping that they bring in a little bit of one called Gotham City Sirens. So that's going to be a blast.
How did you feel about the first Suicide Squad movie?
I felt like Harley Quinn was the best part of that movie.
I agree.
And that they made a good decision in taking that and dropping everything else.
So you have high hopes for...
I have high hopes. It's really well cast. And Birds of Prey is one of my favorite books. It has Batgirl and also is Oracle, the same character in 2 different versions. It has Huntress, Black Canary. It's a lot of really, really fun stuff. And it's one of the all-female superhero teams that's been long running since the 90s. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Very cool.
Do you think that movie's for, like, kids, too?
I don't know. It's PG-13, so like every other superhero movie like that, parents use your judgment. Depends on the age of the kid and what they're into. From what I've seen from the trailers and the books it's based on, it's probably pretty comparable to most of the Marvel movies in terms of content. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. And now let's talk DVDs. What DVDs can our customers expect to be able to rent at the library in February?
Sure. So the biggest release is Dr. Sleep comes out on DVD. So that's based on the Stephen King novel starring Ewan McGregor. Jojo Rabbit comes out on February 18th, and that got lots of critical acclaim as it came out. And Color Out of Space is one that I'm really excited for. It's a very limited release. It's actually still playing at Sunray, as far as I know. It's the only theater in town showing it, but it comes out on DVD at the end of the month, and I want to see that so bad.
I haven't seen it yet, but I really want to as well.
So I'm really a big fan of this trend in science fiction and horror right now, where people are taking Lovecraft and updating it and addressing the racism in Lovecraft's original work. And I love that this movie is adapting a very famous story of his, but they're also not taking the problematic parts of it. It's the same thing, with the Birds of Prey movie. What am I looking forward to? Taking the good stuff and dropping the stuff you don't want to see anymore. And it's this trend in it's called weird fiction that's been happening, and people are addressing it and getting more comfortable talking about it. And I think this movie is part of that. I really like that.
Yeah. And do you, just off the top of your head, do you have any other movie recommendations that are like that?
Other movies like that? I have no idea. It's really hard to make Lovecraftian movies. A lot of people try. I would say that the Reanimator movies are pretty solid, even though they are very, very over the top. And one of those is in Canopy. And as far as other stuff goes, you know, I have more book recommendations than I do for movies. It's really hard to do that well in a visual medium. There's a couple comics that do well with it. Lock and Key does pretty well with it, and they have a Netflix adaptation coming out. So that's a comic book that does it. And then Caitlin Kiernan is an author who does really, really good updated stories. My favorite book of last year was Agents of Dreamland. It's very short. It's like 100 pages. You can read it in a day. And it is extremely weird.
Very cool.
It has zombie mushrooms from space.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What do they do?
They're zombies. They eat you. But they're
Zombies?
mushrooms.
Oh.
So they grow on you.
Oh.
Huh.
It's really weird. I'm not doing it justice.
No, it sounds intriguing to say the least.
Yeah, definitely.
So what about any new graphic novels coming out in February?
Sure. There are two that I'm looking forward to the most. One is there's actually a new Harley Quinn book coming out, probably because of the movie. That's Harleen by Stepan Sajic. He's an artist who did a lot of work on websites like DeviantArt, and then got picked up by comic book companies. So this book started as a fan art series, and then DC Comics came to him and was like, hey, we have this new adult imprint, Black Label DC, and we really like your fan art. We would like you to stop ripping us off and come work for us. So it's a kind of a grown-up take on her origin story. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to Go to Sleep, I Miss You by Lucy Nisley. This is another one that's being collected from like web comics and things like that. She's written a lot of memoirs, including one of my favorites of last year, which is Kid Gloves, which was about pregnancy and just trying to have a kid, and then what that did and how it affected her. And then this is as she's in the fog of new parenthood, she's drawing comics about it because that's how she processes things. And she's putting them on Instagram, and then she collected them and it's in a book. So it's kind of the next chapter. A lot of her books are like that. You can kind of follow her life by reading her books in chronological order.
That sounds like such an interesting concept.
Totally cool. Yeah.
No, she's great. She's great. She's done, she did an interview or a panel discussion or something with the American Library Association last year that I got to watch, and she was just fascinating. Yeah.
And are there any new e-resources coming?
So I don't know about new, but it is the beginning of the month. So your Hoopla checkouts have renewed. You have 8. And some of these graphic novels I'm talking about are available in Hoopla. So you can get Harleen in there. You can get some of Lucy Nisley's books. And there's constantly new material in there.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like nothing beats the feeling of logging in at the beginning of the month and just seeing like 8 checkouts up in the corner. And same with Canopy, seeing like the fresh 6 up there.
You got to pace yourself, folks. Otherwise that last week of the month is going to be really rough.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And what about new releases for teens and children?
Sure. So the picture book I'm most excited for is called The Great Eggscape by Jory John. So this is the next one in kind of I guess it's a series with, the cool bean and the bad seed.
Yeah, we have these books. These books are so good.
And he's also done one of my favorite books from back when I used to do story time. There's a book called Penguin Problems. And that's another one by this artist. So I'm really looking forward to that. For older kids, for your school age, I'm looking forward to All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. So this is a fantasy story. It's someone who's raised in learning magic on an island kingdom, and they're forced to flee when a spell goes wrong, and they team up with pirates. Cool.
Yeah, I kind of want to read that myself. I'm going to get that book for my son, and then I'm just going to kind of read along with him.
Yeah. And then for teens, there's a new book coming out called The Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper. I haven't had a chance to read any of this one yet. I didn't get, any advanced reader copies or secret librarian knowledge, but it's being compared to books like Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda, which has been pretty popular. So I expect people to be looking for that.
Very cool.
And what about graphic novels? Are there any new graphic novels coming out for kids that you're super excited about?
Yeah. So DC Comics is actually tying in a lot of stuff to this new Birds of Prey movie. So they have one called Shadow of the Batgirl. This is by Sarah Kuhn. It's about a girl, Cassandra Cain, who is the daughter of supervillains. And she's also a main character in the Birds of Prey movie. And in the ongoing, the mainstream DC Comics, she was Batgirl for a long time. So you can also find older books with her. I'm also looking forward to My Hero Academia, which volume 23 is coming out. This is another long-running manga. The anime series is really popular. We actually have anime programs around the system in some places.
Really?
Where we can, show different shows and things like that. So this has been a pretty good draw, and it just keeps going.
I was going to say a few months ago, they released another volume of My Hero Academia that you were excited about.
Yeah, it keeps coming. I think it's I want to say it's 2 a year, but it might even be 3. So these are published very quickly, same as your Western comics, and then collected in Japan, and then they're translated when they get brought over here. So we actually have a pretty large, not super large, but we have a backlog of things waiting to be translated. So we get them very, very regularly.
Very cool. And are there any movies we can expect to see in the branches for teens and children?
Yeah. So some of my other recommendations would be good for all ages. So like Jojo Rabbit is PG-13 and could be good for your teen viewers. And then, the big kahuna this month is Frozen 2, comes out on DVDs February 25th. So, yeah.
That's going to be a popular one.
Yeah.
I have not seen it. I know you have a daughter. So
I do.
Have you seen it?
I saw it opening weekend. My daughter was dressed as Elsa. And I've been listening to the soundtrack in my car on the way to work with her almost every day for months now.
Right. So you're going to be the first to check it out on DVD.
Yeah. I'm the sigh is unwarranted. The songs in it are pretty good, and it's a well done movie. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at Disney.
Yeah, it's Pixar. It's like
it's good. The songs are pretty good. The story.
There's no Let It Go though.
It gets close. They take 2 swings at getting like a Let It Go style song, and they almost get there.
Yeah,
but it's close.
Yeah. And what about e-resources for kids?
So we're actually getting some new nonfiction in Overdrive that kids and teens could read. So there's a baking guide for young chefs that releases in Overdrive. And there's a young reader's edition of Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. So those are both excellent. And since you're getting them in Overdrive, there's no late fines or anything like that.
And when you say young reader's edition, so Born a Crime is an adult novel,
yeah.
And how does that work? How do they kind of translate it into a young reader's edition of a book?
So they work with the author, and they kind of, I guess, adapt it. So you can change some of the language. You can focus on different aspects of the stories or drop things that might have been too mature. And it's a lot like if you're telling, whenever you try to have a hard discussion with a kid, and you can still talk about those things, but you talk about them in a different way. So you can use different words, you can use different metaphors to make sure that the same ideas come across. And that's really what it is.
That is very cool. And what can our library card holders expect to see in the branches during the month as far as programs and events?
So it's tax season. And that's, I know, it's terrifying.
I know. I hate tax.
So AARP is offering free tax help at many of our locations, including, since I'm from the west side of Jacksonville, that's where my branch is. The Webb Westconnect Library is offering tax help on Fridays. You can also see programs throughout the library system celebrating Black History Month. So, for example, at the Bill Britton Murray Hill Library, we have a kids program based around Miles Davis. And that'll be on February 19th. Those are the two big, things you're going to see all around town.
Yeah. And there is quite a bit of African American History Month programming. There will be a blog on our website that'll kind of lay everything out.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely be sure to check the website if you're interested in attending any of these programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit more about the tax help. How many people are there? What kind of program is it? Do people actually file their taxes there?
So you don't file your taxes there. They help you fill it out. So they can provide you with the forms and help you with filling out the right stuff and getting your papers in order. But you would still be filing it, by mail or by e-file. And as far as personnel, how many people from AARP are there, it depends on the branch and how large they expect the attendance to be. Some branches get more than others. So I know the main library has it, I want to say Saturdays, and there's plenty of volunteers here for that. Webb Westconnett is another large library, but it's not as large as Maine. The space they're using isn't as large as what they have at Maine, so they would have a little bit less there. But it's not, it's not like Disney World. You don't need to have a fast pass to come in and get tax help. And if you have a very complicated tax situation, they'll probably help you some, but they might have to refer you to someone who can work more extensively with you. Mm-hmm. It's excellent assistance for more basic filing, and then they can give you advice, but they're not the paid professionals. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I mean, that's really awesome that the library does that.
Definitely. And is there anything else you would like our listeners to know about what's coming to the library in February?
So, I mean, at the end of the month, there's Book Fest. That's the big thing, and I know that there's going to be other people who know more about it and are more involved with it who can explain this more. But that's on February 29th, and it's this huge event. Last year was amazing with R.L. Stine. This year there's Brad Meltzer. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I keep telling people about it, and they're like, "Where can I buy tickets?" And I'm like, "It's free. There are no tickets. You just show up."
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Street parking is always free downtown on Saturdays, and you also can get your parking pass validated from the library parking garage.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Only that garage.
Yep.
So keep that in mind.
Yep.
But yeah, it's going to be a blast.
Totally.
Yeah, I was here as part of the Readers Advisory Committee last year, so we had a table near the R.L. Stine speaking in the auditorium, and what we would do is we would talk to people as they're waiting in line and basically do a magic trick where tell me the last thing you read or tell me your favorite book, and I'll tell you something that you'll enjoy that you can pick up after this upstairs. And I talked to I don't know, between 50 and 100 people over the course of a couple hours that I was there. And, it was just so much fun. And I got to recommend a lot of books. So
it's like a crystal ball.
It's a magic trick. And I get very confrontational, almost aggressive about it. I'm like, hey, you kid, you like Goosebumps? It's like, who is this? Oh, he's a librarian. Okay. They're weird.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sean, for joining us. As always, it was a pleasure chatting with you about new releases.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next month.